Oh, it's time for me to talk to you. Oh, okay. I was hoping there was something else to fill in here, but it's time. So today I want to tell you a story about something that recently happened to me and some of the things that were happening right before it, because I don't think it's an accident what was going on. So the name of my talk is Relax at the Point of Contact, but really it's a story in 7 short chapters. Chapter 1, before I tell you it, I have to give you a disclosure that this is embarrassing for me to tell you. But since we're doing Brené Brown and Daring Greatly, I decided that I could be vulnerable and share it with you. Brené says, vulnerability is about showing up and being seen. This is pretty seen. It's tough to do that when we're terrified about what people might see or think. And I have to say, I'm not really terrified, but I prefer sharing my brilliance and not my smallness. But, if we learn from it, it's all good, and I did learn a lot from it. So, Chapter 1, June 4th, 2024. That is 2 months ago to the day. I have a friend that I walk with just about every day for 30 minutes. She was my first real estate client, and this was in 1979, 45 years ago. And I sold her a house in Los Molinos for $17,000. It was a fixer-upper. And after she fixed it up, she decided she wanted to sell it. And so she hired me, and that was my first listing. So we have a lot of history. Now she's in her mid-60s, and I'm in my mid-70s. And other than art and music, we disagree on everything. From politics to spirituality, from movie choices to diet choices. There's just, from thoughts about death to thoughts about healing, we have virtually nothing in common. And it also appears that we're both somewhat hard-headed. Although, I'm not, because I am very nice and kind. Well, I am exposing myself. So on June 4th, we went for our walk together, and we got into a discussion about fruit trees. Pretty neutral, huh? Well, I thought she should plant some new trees because her old ones had long since stopped producing. And she had plenty of land, and why not have fresh, local, free fruit, right? Well, she felt like it was going to require too much work, and now that she was older, she didn't want to push herself. Not only didn't I not hear her reasons, I tried to make her feel guilty for buying food that she could have for free. And after multiple attempts to try to convince her, our conversation abruptly ended. But I want you to know that that evening, I basked in my self-righteousness. Our conversation kept floating through my head, and it was like, she's lazy. She wants me to do all the work of growing and taking care of these fruit trees so she can just come over and eat mine. Then things were going on like, why couldn't she be nice and just throw me a bone? Like, well, that might be a good idea. But no, she was sticking to her guns, and I just knew that she was wrong and I was totally right. When I woke up, oh my, that was a different story. I could not believe how I had been bullying her. And all night long, I thought I was totally right and she was totally wrong. I had been very arrogant, knowing, I'm a minister. I got some special, divine information. But I want you to know I began to dig deeper, and I came to realize that all these years I had been subversively trying to change her life. I'd been trying to change her mind, and I was fairly aggressive about it. And although I did it in such a sweet way that, it was like, I'm helping her, for God's sake. It was for her own good. But I want you to know that even as I was saying that, I could sense, to quote Joe Biden, the malarkey in it. And so I began to question my real motives. Why did I feel a need to change her, to shame her? Why was I so aggressive about it? Why couldn't I just let her be who she was? And then Brene Brown came to the rescue again. She nailed it for me when she said, we can either own our story or we can stand outside of it, denying our vulnerabilities and imperfections, cherishing the myth of our own importance. Then she went on to say, I see the shame-based fear of being ordinary. I see the fear of never feeling extraordinary enough to be noticed, to be lovable, to belong, or to cultivate a sense of purpose. And that really was it for me. I needed to be better than her. I needed to be not only special, but extraordinary. And I want you to know right there I had a come to Jesus moment. I picked up the phone and I called her and I apologized. I couldn't believe how patient she'd been with me all those years. And I want you to know at the end of this conversation, this just blurted out of me. If the two of us can't get along with all of our differences for a mere 30 minutes a day, there will never be peace on earth. World peace rests in our hands. And just as quickly as I said that, I knew I meant it. And that world peace was really more important to me than just feeling special. So I knew something had to change. I had to change. Chapter 2. The evening of June 5th, the following night. On Wednesday nights, I attend Scott Wyman's gathering called A Community of Awakening. And that particular night, he was bringing back stories of bodhisattvas. And he spoke about 3 of them, and they had super long names, and I don't remember them. But I do remember the principles they stood for. These were interesting, these 3. Compassion, wisdom, and power. And he did a guided meditation and shining the light of awareness on these 3 principles, but I just couldn't follow it. I was having a real difficult time and kept getting distracted. But that night, all 3 bodhisattvas showed up. And they were showing me how all 3 of them work together. They like toggle back and forth. Compassion leads to wisdom. Wisdom leads to power. Power leads to wisdom. Wisdom leads to compassion. They were all 3 inextricably connected to each other. What were they here to teach me? Well, the night progressed until around 3 or 4 that morning. Chapter 3, the early hours of June 6th. I had a dream. Now, I know you're not supposed to tell dreams because it makes people's eyes glaze over, but I will tell you this is a significant and short dream. So in the dream, I was standing in front of this steep, rocky cliff, and all this waterfall, a huge waterfall, was pouring down, and it poured so hard that the waters where I was standing was very choppy, and big plumes of water were spraying out from the force of them hitting the pond. And apparently it was my job to get to the top of that mountain. And I looked around and I saw other people climbing it. And every time I tried to climb it, the force of the water kept pulling me back down. And I was like, well, how are they able to do that? And I thought, well, maybe I should walk around. Maybe there's another way. And then I saw somebody and I said, hey, is there another route to get to the top? And they said yes, but it's a 3-day walk. So I knew that wasn't going to work. And I tried a few more times, and I finally, bewilderedly, sat on a rock and prophetically called, this was in the dream, this is the words I called out. Please show me how to get where I want to go. Please show me how to get where I want to go. Please show me how to get where I want to go. And then the words were there, clear as a bell. Focus on the rock, not the water. And I immediately knew what it meant. Keep your eye on the destination and not on all the distractions along the way. And with that, I effortlessly climbed that mountain. I wonder what else this dream had to teach me. Chapter 4, waking up after the dream, the morning of June 6th. I woke up. To silence. The noise in my head was gone. I couldn't figure out what was going on. There was just silence. There wasn't all the words. Come on, time to get up, get to the list. What are we going to do today? What do I have to, what is somebody needing me to do? There was no pressure. There was no anxiousness. There was no hurriedness. There was no busyness. There was nothing. There was no thing. Oh, you don't have my slide up. Well, this was an important slide because I looked and looked for a picture that felt like the silence. And you wouldn't believe, I looked at all those Hubble pictures. They were all busy. They all had all this stuff spinning around. But that's what it felt like. In my head, there's always a 4-lane major highway going on with cars coming in, cars going out, cars passing each other, always this mad dash to get where I need to go and to find my little spot where I can slip into that flow. And now in this moment, silence. No freeway, no cars, no running here and there, not wondering what you think about me, not wondering what you need from me, not feeling any pressure to do anything, not any pressure to solve the world's problems. Just silence, just beingness. And I want you to know, I thought about all of you, and I thought, my very next thought was, is this what you feel? Is this why some of you seem so present and so calm? Is this why so many of you say to me, oh, Connie, you're always so busy? Or are there others out there like me who are always on a never-ending commute? And then I realized it's time to get up. It's time for the walk. Chapter 5, the early morning of June 7th, walking with my friend. I wonder what this is going to be like. We meet, we walk. It is so different. I'm listening to her without thinking of a response. She's telling the same stories, but I'm not gathering my ammunition to be special and to be right. I simply listen. oh, she's who she is. And what she believes is her journey, her life. I marvel at why I ever felt I needed to change it. To be honest, she never asked for my advice. She was just sharing her life with me. But this morning, I'm present. I'm just listening. I have no concern if I need to hurry up to get home, or I just seem to have this innate knowing that I'm right where I need to be and that this present moment is bringing exactly what it needs to bring. No thoughts about past or present, none of that stuff. Just feels like I'm drawn or things are drawn that I don't question whether I should or shouldn't be doing. This is here, this is now, and whatever comes next is the next best thing to do. And I want you to know as the day went on, the silence remained. And in my day-to-day affairs, I was realizing that I was listening more, judging less, accepting more. Felt a real sense of inner freedom. And I wondered what will happen tomorrow and the next day. Chapter 6, 2 weeks later in a Course in Miracles class. One of my classmates was sharing what he learned from Aikido. He said, relax at the point of contact. And the minute he said it, I knew it meant something to me, but I had no idea what. So I Googled it, and this is what Judy Ringer says in an article she wrote. Really can apply this so well. The basic premise of Aikido is that an attack is energy that can be utilized and redirected. Instead of blocking and punching, the Aikidoist relaxes and blends with the attack in order to manage it. Resistance is replaced with engagement. So what that meant to me was when something's coming at me, not to confront it or resist it, but simply to let it go. Just let it go by. And the blending may be as simple as when they're talking, just to nod. Not agreeing, not disagreeing, just acknowledging that you're listening. No wonder this term attracted me. And I wonder what more lessons it has in store. Chapter 7, the final chapter. It's been exactly 2 months since my story began, and the silence is still here. And I wonder, is it a change in brain chemistry? Was it grace? Was it years of spiritual practice? I don't really know, and I wish I could tell you, but what I do know is I think it's more important how my life is different because of it instead of why it happened. And I really want to honor all of those of you who already have this silence. And for those of you who don't, be patient. I'm 76. My life is definitely different without the monkey mind in charge. The silence allows me to be present. I can see what's coming and prepare. The silence allows me to relax at the point of contact. Instead of blocking and punching, the Aikidoist relaxes and blends with the attack in order to manage it. Resistance is replaced with engagement. And here's the key. Without resistance, a magical thing happened. The heart started to open. Why is that important? Well, here's the afterword in my story regarding chapter 1. Walking with my friend with an open heart is a totally different experience. Instead of our time being together about my ego needing to be special, it's an open-hearted opportunity to connect with someone who's very different than I am. The heart is able to simply embrace without resistance. Chapter 2. The spiritual concepts of power, compassion, and wisdom, they don't live in the mind. When you're present and relaxed, they blossom from your heart. They're free to express and intertwine, and without resistance, they can help give you the tools that you need to survive this worldly experience. You need all three. They truly are a holy trinity. Regarding chapter 3, the dream. I believe that when you set an intention like climbing a mountain or looking for your life purpose, you may think those thoughts are coming from your little m mind. But I believe they're coming through the mind. The mind is simply a means of delivery like FedEx. That's its job. Once the package is delivered, the truck goes away. In order to manifest, energy needs to move from your heart. You cannot think things into manifestation. It's the passion in your heart that drives them. And since we've learned from quantum physics and a happy pocket full of money, everything is energy. Those emotions are all about certain frequencies. And the energy from your heart is very different than the energy from your ego. Silence the mind, and the heart opens. When that happens, you're able to feel what's there. And what's important about that is, if you like what you feel, fabulous. But if you don't, you get the opportunity to be aware of it and to begin to change it. And guess what? That's what we do here. Here at this center, our mission is to inspire, empower, and transform. We do this by offering tools and information and community. So together we can lift and raise those lower vibrations we don't want and move them into higher ones so we can actually experience the transformation. I know that in my life, sorry for you all, but this unfolding and revealing will never end. There will never be a final chapter. But whatever the next chapter brings, I'm okay with it. And I'm okay with it because there are two cornerstone principles in the science of mind that are really the core of what I believe. One, there's a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. And two, everything is in divine order, working for the highest and greatest good of all. Not just some, but for all. So I know whatever happens to me in the next moment, whether I like it or not, is for me. The silence allows me to feel it, to hear it, and to follow the guidance. And for now, in this present moment, every day when I wake up, I hope it's Groundhog Day. And that when I wake up, I will hear Cher singing, I've got you, babe. Knowing that the silence is still here and that we all got each other. Namaste. Yeah.